or is she black?
This is the question Donald Trump asked about Kamala Harris at the country's largest gathering of black journalists.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Trump is echoing far-right and conservative accounts on social media, which have been spreading misinformation, questioning Harris's racial identity. Harris has long self-identified as both black and South Asian American. Her mother is Indian, and her father is black, making her the first black and the first Asian American U.S. vice president to serve the country. She's faced a barrage of sexist and racist attacks online since launching her White House campaign earlier this month.
What he just said, what you just read out to me, is repulsive, it's insulting.
This is White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responding to Trump's remarks shortly after.
No one has any right to tell someone who they are, how they identify. That is no one's right.
Trump's first ever appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists annual convention on Wednesday was tense throughout.
Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network.
While on stage, he took jabs at ABC, the questions being asked, and even the equipment.
2 days after that?
I cannot understand your microphone.
There was backlash from some members, prompting a co-chair of the convention to step down in protests. Trump has been actively courting black voters and has held events in cities with large black populations, including Atlanta. But President Joe Biden's decision to step down in favor of Harris could make it more challenging for him to hold his gains with black voters. A Reuters Ipsos poll released Tuesday showed Harris leading Trump 43% to 42%, within the poll's margin of error.
Eurozone inflation edged up unexpectedly in July. Wednesday's data showed how price growth in the 20 countries sharing the euro sped up 2.6% in July, slightly up from June. A key measure of underlying growth in prices, which excludes energy, food, alcohol and tobacco, failed to show the expected decline and came in unchanged at 2.9%. Wednesday's data didn't end market expectations for an interest rate cut by the European Central Bank in September, as they expect inflation to eventually ease. But it did strengthen concerns about a difficult final effort for the ECB to bring down inflation. Eurozone inflation has fallen a long way since hitting double digits in late 2022. Progress has stalled in recent months as prices in the services sector got a boost from higher salaries. In a small positive sign for the ECB, services price growth eased very slightly to 4% in June. The central bank started cutting rates last month. Over the next year or so, it's expected to slowly further cut some of the steepest hikes it has ever made. Rolls-Royce shares soared to a record high on Thursday, jumping 11%. Investors toasted the engineering giant's latest update as the British firm said it would restart its dividend after it upgraded forecasts for this year. Rolls-Royce now forecasts underlying operating profit of up to $2.95 billion. That's hundreds of millions up on the number it guided for in February and well ahead of market expectations. CEO Tufan Ergin-Bilic said his transformation of the company was proceeding with pace and intensity. The plane engine maker had not paid a dividend in 4 years when flying stopped during the pandemic. A strong first half performance saw underlying operating profit rise to $1.47 billion, close to double last year's figure. Rolls-Royce's operating margin rose to 14%, with the biggest gain in its civil aerospace unit. The group also raised its forecast for free cash flow of up to $2.8 billion.
A court in Guinea found former junta leader Musa Dadis Camara guilty of crimes against humanity for a 2009 stadium massacre, as well as 7 other military commanders. The court said on Wednesday that the charges including murder, rape, torture, and kidnapping were reclassified to crimes against humanity. The 60-year-old was the ruler of Guinea when over 150 people were killed at a pro-democracy rally in September 2009. Tens of thousands had gathered at a stadium in Conakry to urge Camara not to run for president. Many were shot, stabbed, beaten, or crushed in a stampede as security forces fired tear gas and charged the stadium. Prosecutors said during the trial that security forces raped at least a dozen women. Fatoumata Berry was a witness to the massacre.
After 15 years, we really thank the President of the Court for having thought about the qualifications of the facts. This is a crime against humanity. The person responsible must take responsibility. International criminal law must be applied to national law. We are satisfied. We are part of history. And all the African leaders who come here, they see that they didn't lead sheep. They led human beings. Too many crimes. Human rights have been violated. We must respect human rights.
Camara was recaptured after escaping prison last November and sat calmly in court as he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Another high-level official, Lieutenant Abubakar Siddiqui Diakite, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for his cooperation with the court, while Colonel Musa Tiekbro Camara, who is in charge of fighting organized crime, was sentenced to 20 years.
Facebook owner Meta Platforms beat forecasts over the second quarter and reckons the coming months could be even better. Revenue jumped 22% to just over $39 billion, exceeding expectations. The firm credited strong ad sales. It also said it was seeing the benefits of a project using AI to better target and deliver advertising. Like rivals, Meta is investing heavily in the technology, but it left its total expense forecast for the year unchanged at up to $99 billion. Meta's previous enthusiasm for the metaverse is working out less well. Losses at its Reality Labs unit, which makes VR headsets and smart glasses, widened to almost $4.5 billion, and the company says that number is set to increase meaningfully in the months ahead. Overall, however, Meta is feeling bullish. It now forecasts a third-quarter revenue range that is ahead of analyst estimates. The robust outlook saw Meta shares rise close to 7% in US after-hours trade. It also boosted ad-reliant social media peers like Snap, which gained 3%.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump repeatedly has gone after the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris for her work dealing with illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border.
As borders are, Kamala threw open our borders and allowed 20 million illegal aliens to stampede into our country from all over the world.
But experts say Harris wasn't really a border czar at all. The vice president was asked to deal with the root causes of migration from Central America as illegal border crossings were rising in 2021. President Joe Biden asked Harris to lead diplomatic efforts to reduce poverty, violence, and corruption in the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, as well as engage with Mexico on the issue. But she didn't control the U.S.-Mexico border. Alan Burson, the former border czar under Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, told Reuters that his job was to coordinate border law enforcement across a group of federal agencies, maintain channels of communication between those agencies and state and local governments, and establish working liaison relationships with foreign governments, mainly Mexico. He said his responsibilities also included recommending strategies to the U.S. Attorney General to improve enforcement of immigration and drug laws at the border. In the words of Burson, quote, "This was not the job assigned to VP Harris, nor should it have been remitted to her office." Harris's record on migration is complicated, according to interviews with 3 current Biden officials, 13 former officials, and others tracking the issue. Some 7 million migrants have been arrested illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border under the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, according to government data, all-time highs that have fueled Republican criticism. However, by May of 2021, the number of migrants crossing from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador fell, although experts say the impact of Harris's efforts remain unclear. Immigration is the 3rd highest concern of U.S. voters behind the economy and extremism, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll in June. At that time, voters favored Trump's approach to immigration over Biden's 44% to 31%.
As president, I will bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump killed, and I will sign it into law.
The Harris campaign, in a statement to Reuters, portrayed Trump as an extremist whose administration separated thousands of migrant families and who helped sink the bipartisan border security bill in the U.S. Senate.
U.S. stocks closed higher on Wednesday as chip stocks rallied and the Federal Reserve indicated it could begin cutting interest rates in September. The Dow gained about 0.25%, the S&P 500 climbed more than 1.5%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq soared more than 2.6%. The Fed kept its benchmark overnight rate unchanged as it ended its two-day policy meeting, but opened the door to easing in September. Data released Wednesday showed July private payrolls increased far less than expected, indicating a loosening of persistent labor market tightness. Mike Muscio is president of FBB Capital Partners.
If the trend kind of continues and they get a cut in September and then maybe another one in November, and the tone is like we see things, inflation continuing to be in check, unemployment we're still mindful of, and that kind of is a measured trend. To me, that would be the definition from this point of the soft landing.
The day's big market movers included Meta Platforms. The Facebook parent, which reported earnings after the close, ended the session up 2.5% before adding roughly 4% in after-hours trading, thanks to a rosy ad sales forecast which may help cover its AI-related costs. Leading AI chip maker NVIDIA jumped nearly 13%, adding about $330 billion in market value, a record one-day gain for any company on Wall Street. Fellow chipmaker Advanced Micro Devices, which ignited the AI rally, gained more than 4% due to a robust 2024 sales forecast for its chips. Tech giants Apple and Amazon, which report earnings on Thursday, also closed higher.
Meet Claws, a robot created to make the future of farming more sustainable. The prototype is designed for two main tasks, weeding and crop monitoring. It's a combination of artificial intelligence and robotics, and its makers say it can get into the tough spots when farmers or other equipment cannot.
Nobody really wants to go through a field weeding on a really wet, windy, cold day, so why not give it to a robot?
CLAWS stands for Concentrated Light Autonomous Weeding and Scouting. The robot was designed by Earth Rover. It uses patented concentrated light technology to eliminate weeds without damaging surrounding crops or soil. James Miller is the CEO of the agriculture tech startup.
So the best way of describing it is a schoolboy with a magnifying glass. So it concentrates the light onto a small focal point on the meristem, the growing point of the weed, and delivers a small pulse of energy, which is enough to kill the weed.
On the left is what the field looks like, and on the right is what CLAWS sees.
It takes an individual photograph and assesses the crop beneath it, identifies the crop, protects that, and then identifies the weeds around it and says, "They're enemy, I'm targeting those." And that all happens in a split second and starts shooting at the weeds.
Miller says this method is more sustainable by reducing greenhouse gas emissions that could be released during soil disturbance. To help monitor crop health, CLAWS is equipped with 8 built-in cameras. It collects real-time data using AI computer vision, which is then sent to Earth Rover's Farm Control and Intelligence System. The information allows farmers to make timely decisions about the health and growth of the crop. CLAWS runs on battery and solar power and operates autonomously in different terrains and weather conditions. Earth Rover has plans to deliver units to customers for testing in 2025. Commercial availability is slated for 2026.
Volkswagen is warning that a period of cost-cutting is far from over. The German auto giant said Thursday that second quarter pre-tax earnings came in at about $5.9 billion, down on this time last year. Income was sapped by higher costs and lower sales in China. It also took a hit over expenses related to the possible closure of a plant in Belgium. VW was already in the midst of a multi-billion-dollar cost-cutting drive. Now it says that effort will run beyond the second half of this year. The company is also revamping its product lineup. It wants to defend its market share in China, where it faces growing competition from local rivals. There was a similar story Thursday from German peer BMW. It reported a lower than expected profit margin, with weak demand in China among the negatives. Shares in the firm sank close to 4% in early European trade Thursday following the numbers. Volkswagen was down around 2%.
Cuoco's intimate scene with Mitchell Heisman go so wrong compared to Johnny Galecki? Kaley Cuoco, best known for her lighthearted role in The Big Bang Theory, faced a stark contrast while filming The Flight Attendant. This shift was most evident during an intimate scene with Michelle Huisman. Unlike her comfortable and even romantic scenes with Johnny Galecki on The Big Bang Theory, this experience was anything but smooth. Kaley recounted the awkwardness of filming with Huisman, veteran of such scenes from Game of Thrones. She admitted to IndieWire, "I had never done any sort of scene ever, and I had one in Flight Attendant with Mitchell. He'd been in Game of Thrones, so he'd done all these scenes, and I just had no idea." Despite Cuoco's discomfort, co-showrunner Natalie Chaidez had a different perspective. She told Digital Spy, "It was a closed set. We were respectful. There was some partial nudity and stuff, so it was very contained as far as who was there. It was extremely steamy." This was a far cry from her experience on The Big Bang Theory, where she shared an undeniable chemistry with co-star Johnny Galecki. Their first kiss was a turning point. Cuoco revealed to Today, "I knew I looked real cute in that outfit, so I was feeling really good about myself. And I knew he thought I looked cute because he commented on how cute I looked earlier." This mutual attraction eventually led to a real-life romance, making their on-screen kisses effortless and far from awkward. Johnny Galecki echoed these sentiments, acknowledging their mutual feelings. At that point, both she and I knew that something mutual was felt, and that it was going to be more of a distraction from the work to try and continue to ignore it than to actually recognize it and surrender to it, he said. Their relationship, although kept private, did not impact their professional lives or the show's success. Looking ahead, Cuoco has decided to avoid such intimate scenes. She candidly told USA Today, "I don't roll that way. I need someone else to do that stuff. We can have someone else do it, and we can fake our way through." Kaley's openness about her experiences offers a glimpse into the complexities actors face when transitioning between roles and genres. Her decision to steer clear of such scenes in the future underscores her commitment to staying true to herself while navigating her evolving career.
Pasar todo este tiempo de calor es insoportable, ¿sabes? Hay que ir tomando agua, no te apetece comer, solamente te apetece tomar agua y todo el día estás así. Y en este calor te pega duro, ¿sabes? No se puede soportar.